Salute BookTube. Welcome to my channel. For those of you who are regulars now, you'll know that, or if you just check out my last video, you'll see that I did a book haul, uh, and I have so many books that I have to cut it up into parts. So my last video was part 1, and here on this video I'd like to show you part 2 of my book haul. Part 1, if it had a theme, was books inspired by BookTube, by watching other BookTubers, by reading my comments, just interacting with BookTubers and getting ideas for what to read or what sounds interesting. So you can check out that video. For this video, if there's a theme, it's going to be, I would call it Arabia and America, or Middle East and America. Books about the Middle East, books about America. That's how I split up these books. Just a caveat, I'm mostly a nonfiction reader, mostly history. I think all the books here are nonfiction, so if you're not into that kind of stuff, maybe this won't interest you. There might be one work of fiction, but it's historical fiction, so again, just a warning, but I thought I'd show you the books. Just one thing, it's a lot of books I have, so this is part 2, and I don't know how long how many parts this book haul series is gonna have. And I'm not just buying these books for, clout chasing or clickbait, although my book haul videos do get a lot of views, usually. The reason I do it, and I explained it in the first video, is, again, where I am based, and for those who don't know, I'm based in the heart of the Middle East, in the United Arab Emirates. Where I am at, there's not that many bookstores. There's about 3 total in the whole country. And the library system is decent, but it's mostly Arabic books, so English book selection is limited. So to get English books, used books, I can't just go to the library, and I want to support the independent used bookshops here, all 3 of them. Because if I don't, you never know, they might go out of business or God forbid, so that's why I do it. There's also Kindle, of course, and I do read on Kindles, but again, I'd rather patronize the used bookstores, the independent used bookstores, instead of giving Jeff Bezos more money. So with that, I think we should start with the books. I might start with the American books, some American history I have. I've got a lot of American viewers. And then we'll do the Middle Eastern books that I picked up. A lot of them because I'm in the Middle East, so the bookstores here usually well stocked in Middle Eastern books. The first book I'm going to show actually wasn't from a used bookstore. It was from a new bookstore here in my town. But they had like a discount, like a sale of books they wanted to just get rid of, so heavily discounted. The only issue was most of the books when I was browsing through them were they're getting rid of a lot of self-help books, so a lot of self-help, and I don't really read self-help. Very rarely do I read self-help books. It's just not my thing. I don't. I mean, if you do like self-help books, all power to you. But for me, it just doesn't work out. But so most of the books were self-help, so there wasn't that much selection. And this first book was one that I found that was, when I say self-help, a lot of them are like business books, like how to, I don't know, start an online business, or a lot of businessy or self-help books. This first one is a history book, but it sort of gives you an idea of what kind of books you find there. This is by Benjamin C. Waterhouse, and it's called The Land of Enterprise. The subtitle is A Business History of the United States. This cover, they could have maybe made a nice cover. This is a very bland cover, but yeah, I think that's basically what it is. It's a history of the U.S., business history. So how trade and business really built America. Just looking at the table of contents, chapter 1, Conquest, Colonies, and Capitalism. Chapter 2 is the business of bondage, which is slavery, which is a big stain on American history. Chapter 3, factories come to America, so we're going into the 19th century. The politics of business in the early republic. Business gets big. Warring with the octopus, workers, farmers, and trust busters. The dawn of modern life. Then from Roosevelt to Roosevelt is chapter 8, business and the modern state. So I think that's Teddy Roosevelt to FDR and all the FDR and the New Deal and all the labor unions. And then In Love with Bigness is chapter 9, the post-war corporation. That's when America really, after the war, found itself pretty much the only country standing, pretty much. Chapter 10, the personal, political, and the profitable. Chapter 11, after the industrial economy, which is more recent, I guess, more of the knowledge economy. And then the final chapter is Finance Takes Flight. This book is from 2017, actually. The paperback is 2018. So definitely probably covers the financial crisis, the last one, 2008, the Great Recession, and then I don't know how much about the 20 teens is in here, but it's not the biggest book in the world, but again, pretty niche business history of America. It says Benjamin C. Waterhouse, that's the author right there. He's a historian of American politics, business, and capitalism. Waterhouse graduated from Princeton University and received his PhD in history from Harvard University. He's currently an associate professor and Grauer Scholar at the University of North Carolina. He lives in Chapel Hill with his wife, Daniela, and their 2 children. Okay, so yeah, business history of the United States. Interesting. A different take on American history, I guess. The second book also I found there. It was a interesting book, not about business. This is presidential history. It's by Jared Cohen, and it's called Accidental Presidents. The subtitle is 8 Men Who Changed America. I recognize Teddy Roosevelt at the bottom. The others, you can just see their eyes. I don't want to guess. I think that's Truman, but I'm not sure. If we look at the 8 presidents that are based on the table of contents, or I think they named them. Yeah, so it's here. John Tyler, Millard Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, Chester Arthur, Theodore Roosevelt, Calvin Coolidge, Harry Truman, and Lyndon Johnson. 8 times in our republic, a vice president, our republic, or the Republic of the United States. A vice president has succeeded on the death of a president. So that's what this focuses on. There's usually an untimely death of a president, an assassination or death by natural causes, and then the man who has to step in. So it says, a vice president has succeeded on the death of a president, history altered by a heartbeat. Each would have to step out of the shadow and learn to be president. Accidental President describes some of our history's most momentous decisions and crucial turning points. It's a powerful argument against a limited reading of the Constitution. Okay, that last chapter gets a bit constitutional. I'm gonna have to read it to understand that better. But from the list that from this book, John Tyler, I know there was a president in the 19th century who got pneumonia and died. Like maybe John Tyler took over. Like he contracted. The name escapes me. Contracted pneumonia while he was giving his State of the Union, his first State of the Union, his victory speech, basically, and then he got sick because he did it out in the cold. So maybe that's one. Millard Fillmore. I'm blanking the older ones. Andrew Johnson, that one is well known. That's after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Chester Arthur. I think Chester Arthur is after the assassination of President Garfield. I have a book about President Garfield. Very interesting story, actually. Very interesting. I think it was a very fascinating book. The author is Candace Millard. It's about Garfield. You can check it out. Maybe do a search. Theodore Roosevelt. That's after the death of McKinley. Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge took over. Harry Truman, that's FDR, who died in office, and then Lyndon Johnson after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So interesting study of vice presidents coming into power after the untimely death of the sitting president. The next book, I actually also saw this on BookTube. I think I saw it on the channel Vin at Revenant Reads. If I can remember, I'll link his uh, his channel below. He is one of the founders. I think he is the founder of Historathon. So I watch his videos, although he doesn't post as much as I'd like. I think he read this and gave it a glowing review. It's by Stephen E. Ambrose, and it's called Undaunted Courage. The subtitle is Meriwether Lewis, Thomas Jefferson, and the Opening of the American West. And it's got the prize. Oh no, sorry. Okay, that's not a prize. It's just Simon Schuster America Collection. But then it says, with an introduction by the author celebrating the bicentennial of the Louisiana Purchase. So early American history, opening of the West. The cover is interesting. There's a man of color. There's a native woman, I believe. I think that's Meriwether Lewis. And then there's a sort of like a pioneer sort of figure. So just figures from early America. So again, comes well recommended. So I look forward to reading it. And then the last book that's related to U.S. History is a chunker. Look at this. Look at the size of this thing. It's huge, big hardcover. But when I saw it at the used bookstore, I had to grab it. These books, they don't come around too often. So when you see them, you gotta grab them. This is called The Republic for Which It Stands. And the subtitle is The United States During Reconstruction and the Gilded Age, 1865 to 1896. And it's by Richard White. And I think this is part of the Oxford History of the United States, which is, I think there's 5 of them. I think I have a couple of them already, so I'm building the collection. So I was happy to find this one. You probably see the list of the other books in the series. But this one, 1865 to 1896, that's only about 31 years. If my math, 31 years, if my math is correct. And then look how big it is for just 30 years of U.S. history. But it's a period of American history I'm not very familiar with. I know 1865 is the end of the Civil War, but I don't know why it ends at 1896. I don't know what happened in 1896 for it to be a closing date. Why 1896? I think maybe there was a crash, a financial crash in 1896. Maybe it was the end of the term of Grover Cleveland, President Cleveland, who is like Donald Trump, the current president. He had an administration, and then he was voted out, and then he came back. He served 2 terms, but non-consecutive, exactly the same as Donald Trump. So maybe that's the reason it ends at 1896. But again, when you find a book like this and it's almost in perfect condition, when you're out here in the Arabian desert and you find this, you should grab it, if you like history. Or American history. I've got quite a collection of American history, maybe too much. And I know that next year, 2026, is the 250th anniversary of the United States, the founding of the United States. So it looks like I might do 2026 as one big, just reading American history, read some of the American history books that I have. Try to clear the library a bit, but also in honor of the 250th anniversary. Do some American history reading. That's the plan, at least. Not sure if I want to commit the whole year to doing it, but let's see as the date comes closer. So those were the American history books. The rest of them are dealing with the Middle East, the region where I'm from, and for that reason you'll find a lot of books about the Middle East when you go to the bookstores here. It's just inevitable, but we'll start with the first one. This is called The Arabs, and it's by Anthony Nutting. It's an older book. It says here it's the author of Lawrence of Arabia. The book, the author is familiar to me. I might have this book or another. Maybe I don't think I have the Lawrence of Arabia book. Maybe I have this one. It's very possible that I do and I've forgotten. But again, an older book. It's a bit in delicate. It's already patched up. It's in very fragile condition. But hopefully, I can get a read out of it. You've got the map of the Middle East. And this just goes through the history of Arabs, but it's not very long. But when is this from? These older books, it's even difficult to flip the pages. This is from 1964. Okay, so even before the 6-Day War. But I like these older books about the Middle East, about the Arabs. It discusses Arab history. This is even probably before the oil crisis, which shot oil prices up. It's when a lot of the newer Arab republics were established. So it's a frozen moment of Arab and Middle Eastern history. So I like these older books. I've got quite a bit. I'm amassing quite a collection of older books about the Middle East and about Arab history. Next book is about a specific Arabic country. This is by Tim McIntosh Smith. I've got a couple of his books. He's more of a travel writer / history writer, but mostly more travel. This is Yemen. The subtitle, I don't know if it shows in the glare, it's Travels in Dictionary Lands. Okay, I don't know why it's referencing dictionary, but it's travel writing. Tim McIntosh Smith has another book where he follows in the footsteps of Ibn Battuta, the great medieval Arab travel writer. He has another book, Travels with a Tangerine, I believe. I think I have both of them, so this is adding to my collection. I've got a set. I don't know how many other books he has. But this is about Yemen. For those who don't know, let's see if there's a map. Maybe a bigger map. Yeah, so that's the Arabian Peninsula. Maybe people know Saudi Arabia. I'm somewhere over here. Yemen is right there in the South Arabia, very close to Africa and very strategic. There's that. Here's the Red Sea, and that's the Indian Ocean. And there's the Suez Canal is somewhere over there. So a lot of the shipping goes through here, the world shipping from Asia to Europe and the West. But it's a very small choke point in a very unstable part of the world. A few people who follow recent news will know Yemen. There's the Houthi rebels who have been attacking American and Israeli ships, mostly Israeli, but also sometimes American ships from their bases in Yemen, and hurting worldwide logistics. Just hurting worldwide shipping and creating a lot of bottlenecks and increasing prices of shipping and insurance. So a very important country, one we forget at our own peril. Yemen is, I think, the poorest Arab country. So it'll be interesting to read about. Next, this is by an author, Amin Malouf, who he writes a lot of fiction, a lot of it based in the Middle East. He also writes nonfiction. This is a nonfiction book. It's called Disordered World. And the subtitle is A Vision for the Post 9/11 World. So this is, again, dated, but must be just after 9/11. Just see the dates really quickly if we can. 2011. Sorry, okay, I think this was originally written in French and translated in 2011. It's originally from 2009. And you can see there the 9/11 attacks, and then here at the bottom is our Arabian flags. I think this is they just brought them together. There's the Iraqi flag. I think that's the Yemeni flag, and then an Egyptian flag. And then you can see some American helicopters there. So this is just as reminiscence of what's happening in the Middle East post 9/11. And then if it's 2009, it's just before the Arab Spring that happened in 2010, 2011. So dated, but it'll be interesting to see what a noted writer of Middle Eastern origin, what his thinking was at that period of time, and how accurate his findings are. To be, with the benefit of about 15 years of hindsight, we'll see how prescient he was. Next book this is well known, especially in my part of the world, my part of the Middle East. This is by Wilfred Thesiger, and it's Arabian Sands. I must have like maybe 5 copies of this. I keep buying different versions. I don't have this version, but it's a Penguin. It's the Penguin Travel Library series. So Thesiger, for those who don't know, was a famous British explorer, probably the last. They call him the Great Last Explorer, although I don't know how accurate it is to call him the last. But what made him famous was he started in Yemen, in southern Arabia, and went through the Empty Quarter, which is this very large, very desolate desert that is pretty much uninhabited and very difficult to cross. Only the Bedouin Arabs, the nomadic Arabs, are able to do it, and he did it with the help of nomadic Arabs, but he was the first Englishman or European or Westerner to do it. Or no, sorry, he wasn't the first. Sorry, there were others who did it, but he was the best of the bunch, the best writer of the bunch. So his book, this is quite well known. I know it's well known among Brits, because he's a British hero, but I think also in America. And so I just picked it up because it's a nice copy. It's almost new, so I was happy to find it in such a good condition. You can see it's old Arabia. This is the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s. Actually, it's the 40s. It's after World War II, but still very primitive. You can see the camels and the just primitive Arabian travel writing. Arabia before oil changed everything. One of the last witnesses of it to write about it. The next book, this is the one fiction I believe that's here, but it's historical fiction. It's by Simon Scarrow, and it's called The Generals. And it's got a subtitle for a novel. It's Napoleon in Egypt, Wellington in India, an epic struggle for supremacy has begun. But now that I'm reading it, I don't even think this is fiction. Is this fiction? No, I think this is nonfiction. In the turbulent aftermath of the French Revolution, Napoleon Bonaparte is accused of treachery and corruption. His reputation is saved by his skill in leading his men to victory in Italy and Egypt. But then he must rush home to France to restore order amidst political unrest and to find peace or victory over the country's enemies, foremost of which is England and Arthur Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington. Wellesley is on the other side of the world, in India, where British interests are under threat. Wellesley leads vast armies against a series of powerful warlords and campaigns that will result in the creation of the Raj, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. He returns to England a hardened veteran and more determined than ever to end France's domination of Europe. Both Wellesley and Napoleon intend to win, whatever the cost. Who will ultimately succeed? Well, we know who succeeded. The British succeeded. Napoleon lost. I thought this was fiction when I picked it up, because and I'm seeing a lot of quotations. I'm not seeing a lot of notes or endnotes. So I still don't know. But why I picked it up is because it's fascinating about Napoleon in Egypt on one side of the Middle East, and then at the far end of the other side of the Middle East, the Duke of Wellington, or who would become the Duke of Wellington, was in India. The question is, does this book get into a lot of what happened in between, which is the Arabic countries? How much of that is discussed here? It's not a small book, so I'll read it. I'll find out if it's fiction or non-fiction. I believe it's fiction, but very close to history fiction, almost historical fiction, but very, very heavy on the historical part. I don't know how much plot and drama there is, but we'll see. We'll see. The next book, this is by Diana Drake. It's called My House in Damascus, and the subtitle is An Inside View of the Syrian Crisis. What I read about it is Diana Drake. I don't know why, but she was living in Syria when the Syrian uprising against the former regime of Bashar al-Assad began. So she is a witness, a first-hand witness of the Syrian uprising and what actually happened in Syria, and yeah, just basically what happened in Syria. We know now that Bashar al-Assad has been toppled from power. There's a map of Syria, an important Middle Eastern country. He's been toppled from power. This is from 2014. What's this? Copyright 2014 and comma 2016, so maybe updated in 2016. So again, dated. It's almost a decade now, but the early parts of the Syrian uprising, from a Western author who was there, not somebody sitting in London or New York writing about it. Somebody that was actually in Damascus. Comes with a lot of good blurbs. And says, for every copy of this book sold, House Publishing will donate 15% of the receipts, and Diana Drake 15% of her royalty to a higher education fund for Syrians, administered by the Saeed Foundation. Interesting. Although I bought it used, so I just saw that. Had I known, maybe I would have picked it up new, although I don't know if this is still in print. But again, for me, based here, this is interesting. I don't know how interesting it is for people in the Western world, but it should be, because now Syria is governed by a regime that is pretty much Al-Qaeda, pretty much ISIS. America, September 11th said, it's the end of Islamic terrorism. It's the end of Al-Qaeda. No more fundamentalist Islamic governments. Here we are, a quarter of a century after 9/11, and there's not one, but there's two Al-Qaeda terrorist / ISIS governments. So it tells you everything you need to know about American foreign policy. Big jumble. I don't even. Again, at a time when they removed Osama bin Laden and the Taliban from Afghanistan, there was none. There was no Islamic governments. Now the Taliban are back in Afghanistan. There's a ISIS-friendly government in Syria. There's ISIS, we can say ISIS-sympathetic or quite fundamentalist Islamic government in parts of Libya. There's Al-Qaeda running around in Yemen. We discussed Yemen earlier. They're all over the place now. There's other parts, maybe in sub-Saharan Africa, that could be vulnerable. So it's something that maybe America and the West are sleeping on, but they shouldn't. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. This next book is a bit personal. This is about the country that I'm in, the United Arab Emirates. It's by Peter Clark, and it's called Emirates Diaries. And the subtitle is From Sheikhs to Shakespeare. I don't know if that shows. Shakespeare's on my mind. I've been reading a lot of Shakespeare, especially last month, but you can see the camels and the sandy desert, and then the shining skyscrapers and mosques in the background. And this is basically a English-British expat gentleman who came here to this country reluctantly in the late 80s, early 90s. And this is just a diary of 1 or 2 years of his life. I think it's just 1 year. I think 1988, or is it? Oh, actually, it's 4 years, 1988, 89, 90, 1991, and 1992. So this will be a bit nostalgic for me. This is a bit personal. It's what life in this country was like, what is it now, almost 40 years ago. A different time. Spent my childhood at this time, so I'll be interested to see what Peter Clark has to say about it. Well, there was one more thing I wanted to say about this before I let it go. Yes, 1990, 91, of course, it was the Gulf War in Kuwait when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. So it was a turbulent time. But then with the benefit of hindsight, we know the later 90s was a boom time, and that's pretty much continued since then. anyway, this is again very in the weeds. I don't know how interesting it will be for anybody else out there watching, but for me, this is almost personal history, so I grabbed it. And then the next book is another chunker. That American history book about Gilded Age America was a chunker. Look at this. This is huge hardcover, but I'm glad I found it in hardcover. It's Robert Fisk's The Great War for Civilization. The subtitle is The Conquest of the Middle East. I don't know, because it's so big, and that title and subtitle is very, very vague, and it's the entire Middle East. You can see there, look at the end papers. This is like just opening to the first page. A guy with a gun, two people surrendering. If we just read the first paragraph. Rarely have first-hand reporting and history been so powerfully combined than in Robert Fisk's epic story of tragedy and betrayal in the Middle East. As his narrative of bloodshed and cruelty unfolds in Iraq, Afghanistan, Algeria, Iran, Israel, Palestine, and other battlefields, the carnage of September 11, 2001, and the overthrow of Saddam Hussein's brutal regime take on new and frightening meaning. I'll keep going. Fisk, who met Osama bin Laden 3 times, has been on the battlefront of the Middle East conflicts for 29 years, and his devastating accounts of human suffering are now read around the world. His eyewitness testimony of the horrors of modern warfare in the tradition of the great reporters of the Second World War is laced with both suspicion and anger. I'll just one more. This is no chronology of the Middle East history, but a passionate outcry against the lies and deceit that have sent soldiers to their deaths and killed tens of thousands of men and women, Muslim, Christian, and Jew, over the past century. It is also a chronicle of journalists' war, of the rage, humor, and frustration of the correspondents who spend their lives reporting the first draft of history, of their occasional courage and sometimes their deaths. I'll stop it there, but so it's not history, it's more journalism. Robert Fisk was a journalist in the Middle East, and this is just his recollections. But it came well recommended. Steve Donahue recommended this in one of his endless book recommendation videos. So from the hundreds and hundreds of books he described, when there's a Middle Eastern book, my ears perk up, and he mentioned this one, and I found it, and I was glad to find it. So I look forward to reading it. I don't know when and how long it's going to take me, but I'm going to put it down because it's hurting my arm. It's so heavy. So big and heavy. We're at 32 minutes. Let's quickly try to wrap this up. Next book is by Irvin Washington. It's Muhammad. That's the Prophet of Islam. This is a biography. Irvin Washington is a 19th century if I'm not mistaken, he's a 19th century American historian and travel writer. So this is a 19th century American take on Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. This is his biography. Washington Irving was on my mind. The Shelf Seeker, another good booktube channel, has a collection of books about the Moors, the Islamic Moors in Europe. And I think he wrote a book also about Andalusia and the Moors, but this one is about the Prophet Muhammad, so I'll be interested to read it. Again, yeah, it's part of the Wordsworth Classics of World Literature, so an older book by an American who wrote about the Middle East before most Americans knew what the Middle East was, or, again, 19th century America was very isolationist. They weren't that involved in the world, so it'll be interesting to read. Next one is a well-known one. I've got a copy of this, but I saw this Wordsworth Classics edition. Such a nice cover, I had to grab it. Also very highly recommended by Steve Donahue. Says it's one of his favorite books, if not, I don't know if it's his favorite, maybe his favorite non-fiction book, I believe. That's what he said. This is T.E. Lawrence, 7 Pillars of Wisdom. Look at that cover. So nice. Very, very beautiful cover. And yeah, everybody knows Lawrence of Arabia. This is his recollection of his time in the Middle East and what he learned and the lessons he's imparting to whoever cares, really. The next book, okay, this is going to need some explanation. This is again about my part of the world. Maybe I'll show it first and then I'll explain it. The book is called My Fantastic Life in Dubai. And the subtitle is The Oh So True Story of Jumeirah Jane, the Ultimate Expat. And it's by Kira Dupont Trubetskoy and Celine Maslard. So, what's a Jumeirah Jane? You can see this is a lady in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. You can see she's blonde. She's dressed like a Western woman, a professional. She's taking a selfie in front of the tallest tower in the world. A Jumeirah Jane, there's a section of the society here made of expats, mostly Western, mostly European. They're trophy wives. They come here, these women come with their husbands. Their husbands are usually have very cushy, very high-powered mostly finance and banking jobs in the financial sector here, or the financial sector in Dubai, which is a large regional financial sector. It's almost a global financial sector. Lots of banks, lots of investment firms, lots of venture capitalists. A lot of money. These men make huge salaries, working very corporate, high-powered corporate jobs. Their wives, on the other hand, are trophy wives. They don't work. They sit at home, and I think the social media meme is they drink matcha, they do Pilates, and they go shopping. I think that's what they do. But that's not fair to them. They're not just lazy women. Most of them are mothers. So they are mothers. They're what we used to call housewives, but they're mothers. They do take care of the children, although, again, their husbands make thousands upon thousands of equivalent dollars a month as a salary. So yes, they do raise the children, but they've got cooks, they've got nannies, they've got drivers. And as well, because they're trophy wives, they have to look good. I mean, looking good and being pretty is almost a full-time job. So that's what Jumeirah Jane, it's the name it's been given here. Jumeirah is a very posh, very upscale neighborhood in Dubai where all these rich expat European couples live, and that's where there's a lot of manicure salons, and there's a lot of Pilates gyms, and there's a lot of matcha cafes. So that's what this is about. It's not a big book, but this is what the book pretty much celebrates. Yeah, basically, the women are most of them. Jumeirah Jane was coined by British. A lot of them are British expats. So the man, the husband, works at a bank or a big corporate job. The woman is a stay-at-home mom who, again, she's a trophy wife. And then there's the children. But it's not only British. A lot of them are Russian. There's a lot of Russian trophy wives. Russian women enjoy this lifestyle. But there's also other Europeans. Americans less so. There's not as many Americans, but you'll find a couple. But mostly British, Russian, Eastern European, Slavic women, but also Arab women as well. You'll see them, husbands with high-powered jobs, and them just living what appears to be a very spoiled, very easy, comfortable life. But again, being a trophy wife, making sure everything's in order while the husband's at work, and then when he comes back, the house is clean and she looks pretty for him, and the kids are all taken care of, basically. So the day would start with the husband going to work, the mother probably dropping off the kids with the help of the driver to school. But once the husband is away and the kids are at school, they're pretty much free to do what they want, or to do the things they gotta do. So salons, manicures, pedicures, shopping, gym, Pilates, that kind of thing. Interesting part of UAE society. Maybe somebody would find that fascinating or interesting. Going back to more geopolitical subject, this is by Kai Bird, and it's called The Good Spy. And the subtitle is The Life and Death of Robert Ames. There's a few pictures. I think that's Robert Ames, but there's Yasser. Yeah, that's Yasser Arafat, the ex leader of the Palestinian resistance, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation, PLO in English, Palestinian Liberation Organization, I believe. Anyway, and there's there's one woman there. I'm not sure who that is. It could be his wife. I'm not sure, but that's Kai Bird over there, who was apparently his friend, who was Robert Ames's friend. And it says here, on April 18th, 1983, a bomb exploded outside the American embassy in Beirut, killing 63 people, including America's most influential and effective intelligence officer in the Middle East, CIA operative Robert Ames. Ames had an extraordinary ability to form deep, meaningful connections with key Arab intelligence figures, and his prominent role in the Middle East's Great Game held the potential for a lasting peace, which crumbled in the wake of his death. I'll end it there. You get the idea. It's kind of like more recent American spy in the Middle East, and one who tragically was killed. Next book is an interesting subject for those who follow, again, recent events, the events in Iran. Iran is mostly a Shia country. Hezbollah is Shia. The Houthis in Yemen are Shia. Iraq has a lot of Shia. This is by Vali Nasser, and it's called The Shia Revival. And the subtitle, I don't know if that shows, the glare, it's really small. It says, How Conflicts Within Islam Will Shape the Future. So Islam isn't one monolithic, just like there's Protestants and Catholics, there are Sunni and there's Shia. And this one, again, this is right after, I think, the invasion of Iraq by America. What is the date of this book? 2006. Yeah, so Iraq was ruled by a Sunni, Saddam Hussein, and his Sunni, mostly his family that were Sunni. But when America came and removed him, the Shia came back into power and added to Iran, and with Hezbollah, etc. What Vali Nasser here argues is that it's going to be a Shia revival. And the Shia, usually, they're the minority. They haven't really ever held power in Islamic. Very, very few episodes in specific regions. But now, or at least what Vali Nasser argues, is that they're making a comeback. I lost my train of thought. There was something I wanted to mention. Yeah, the Shias have been here they've been around since the beginning of Islam. The Sunni Shia split happened really at the beginning of the history of Islam. But it's always been the Sunni dominating the Shia. But again, what Vali Nasser argues is that it could be changing. Again, this is 2006. It's already 2 decades old. It's a bit dated, but that Shia supremacy is also under attack because Israel is not happy with religious Shia in power, especially in Iran. And we saw the whole Israel-Iran war that occurred just this past summer, and that's also put a break on this supposed revival. Still a question mark. It should be a question mark, or it'll be interesting to see what Vali Nasser was writing in 2006, and again how prescient it was, and how realistic it is, because again they're a minority. If you take Iran out of the equation, the Shia are a minority in the Middle East, and it'll take something major to make the whole Middle East become a Shia Islamic kind of society. The next book, I didn't want to show this. This is again very in the weeds. This is about the UAE. I don't know how interesting this is going to be. This is called The Three Islands. The subtitle is Mapping the UAE-Iran Dispute, and it's by Khalid Al Nahyan, who is a member of the royal family of the United Arab Emirates. So he wrote this book. The three islands that are discussed are very obscure islands that are in the Persian or the Arabian Gulf, whatever you want to call it. The Iranians or the Persians call it the Persian Gulf, the Arabs call it the Arab Gulf, and they fight over it. Even the naming they fight over. But If you can see, that's the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, where I'm based, and that's Iran, and that's the Hormuz Strait, where all the oil is all taken from somewhere around here and then shipped out of here to the world markets. Over here is the Indian Ocean and the rest of the world. But again, just like in Yemen, it's a major choke point, and if Iran was to close this, they could seriously harm oil supplies. It would be a catastrophe. But the islands that are, I don't know if it's going to show here. There's a very faint square with three islands here, and these three islands are being fought over between the UAE and Iran about who controls it. The UAE claim it belongs to the UAE. The Iranians say no, these have always been Iranian islands. Of course, it's not, because there's a lot of oil suspected to be here, and it's in a very, these islands are in a very geostrategically important place that blocks the entry and exit of this strait. It's very, very passionately fought over. Maybe not a lot of people outside the Middle East know it. Maybe even people outside the Gulf don't know it, but it's very important in my part of the world. So this is a book where he lays the claim. But what's interesting here is you would think he's part of the royal family, he'd be very biased, but apparently just reading a blurb, I read a bit of the introduction, surprisingly he takes quite a neutral stance. He's not, he takes it, he's not too biased, apparently. I still need to read it and see for myself, but this island issue is also famous because what the UAE wants to do is they want to adjudicate it in court. They can't fight Iran. Iran is such a large country; it can't devolve into war unless all the Arabs unite, which is unlikely, at least for this issue. So the UAE can't take back these islands by force because the Iranians have put soldiers there and they've claimed it, and the UAE now is fighting to try to get it back. So because they can't get it back by force, what they've been doing or proposing is to adjudicate it in the World Court or the International Tribunal Court, I think it's in The Hague in the Netherlands, and say, look, let's put our documents against your documents, let's dispute this in court, and let the judges and the jury, I don't know if they use a jury, but let the judges decide who does it really belong to. And the UAE is confident that if they take it to court, they would win. Now, the Iranians have always rejected taking this to court. I think, they know they might lose, but their argument is that the UAE is much more pro-Western, and these courts are mostly pro-Western, and that if it went to that court, it would get political, and the more Western, it's a Western-dominated court, and they would be biased and they would side with the UAE. So it's a very contentious issue. It's still yet to be resolved. This book is a bit older. It's been pushed to the side because there's other issues with Iran and Israel and all of that. So the island issue is still it's still there, but it's been pushed to the background. But it's still a flashpoint, and unless some kind of resolution is made, it could get ugly. It definitely could. Okay, last three books. I want to finish this quickly because I don't want this to go for an hour. This next book is called Reset: Iran, Turkey, and America's Future. And it's by Stephen Kinzer. I have another one of Stephen Kinzer's book, JJ at the Bookworm Blacksmith. She mentioned his other book, All the Shah's Men. I think that's his more famous book. I think I don't know if I have it. I might or I might not. All the Shah's Men, but I have his other book, which is about Turkey. I don't know if it'll be here, if it'll be listed here. Yeah, Crescent and Star, Turkey Between the Two Worlds. I have that book, and I'll have this one as well. And this is what it is, the subtitle, Iran and Turkey. The Middle East is mostly Arab countries, but there's two countries in the Middle East that are not Arab. One is Iran, they're Persians, and the other one is Turkey, because they're Turks. And Turkey and Iran are the regional heavyweights. The Arabs, because they're very disunited, and they're split up into 23 countries. It's hard for them to craft a united front. So Iran and Turkey are major players in the Middle East, and that's what this book is about. And then staying on the subject of Iran, or sorry, not of Iran, of Turkey. This book I found is looks really nice cover. It's by Alan Palmer. It's called The Decline and Fall of the Ottoman Empire. Again, not the biggest book, um, but it's not the biggest book, but it's um, basically what it is: the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Ultimately, the Ottoman Empire fell with the First World War, and they controlled all the Middle East. And once the empire collapsed, the Middle East was just, the question is what to do with it. And the victors, the British and the French, pretty much split up the Arab world into, they created borders, and then they controlled parts of the Middle East. The British took Iraq and Palestine and Jordan and the Gulf, and the French took Syria and Lebanon, and the French also had control of Algeria and Morocco and North Africa, Tunisia. Of course, the British also had Egypt and the Suez Canal. So it's just late Ottoman Empire history. I've got a bunch of books about it. It's a very well-written subject. Most of the books I have about the fall of the Ottoman Empire are big books. This one is small, so it'll be interesting to see how Alan Palmer sort of summarizes a big subject. One of the defining historical markers for the modern Middle East. It's the decline of the Ottoman Empire after 500 years of controlling one Islamic ummah or community. Now it's all split up to different nation states. So any book about modern Middle East, modern Arabia will probably start with the end of the Ottoman Empire in 1920 and then just go forward from there. The last 100 years has been a time of anarchy and many nation states, no united front. So it's a well-known historical marker for this part of the world. And then the last book is one that's really interested me because it's a subject that I'm very fascinated about. This is by Osama Makdisi, and it's called Age of Coexistence. Again, I don't know how clear this is, but the subtitle is The Ecumenical Frame and the Making of the Modern Arab World. Again, this deals with kind of what happened at the end of the Ottoman Empire or during the Ottoman Empire. Basically, what Makdisi argues here is that the West has framed the Middle East as a place of intolerance, of fundamentalism, of despotism. What Makdisi argues here is that that's not the case, that there was a lot of coexistence in the Middle East. And that's borne by just the demographics. There's a large Christian minority. There was a sizable, influential Jewish minority in most of the Middle East. Of course, they all disappeared because the state of Israel was created by European Jews, not by Middle Eastern Jews. They weren't very involved. And then there's other minorities, Druze, Yazidis, many small ones. So what Makdisi argues is that the Middle East was actually a very tolerant coexistence, a very tolerant place with a lot of coexistence. It's only recently, I would argue, of course, after the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the British and the French and other Europeans split it up among themselves. But then when the Americans came in also, they started supporting more, basically just keep communism out and keep pumping oil. Keep communism out, pump oil, and do whatever you want. So more fundamentalist Islamic ideologies came into power, and we know the history, the 9/11 and the war on terror and all of that. But again, I don't know what the time frame Makdisi uses. I can see here it says 19th century. Maybe the table of contents would tell us. Yeah, so introduction, religious difference in an imperial age, the crucible of sectarian violence, coexistence in the age of genocide. There was genocide in Europe. There wasn't really a genocide in the Middle East. There wasn't a huge genocide of Jews in the Middle East like there was in Europe and the Western world. That's for sure. Colonial pluralism, sectarianism and anti-sectarianism in the post-Ottoman Arab world. That's what we discussed. The fall of the Ottomans and the Arab nation states, all 23 of them. And then Breaking the Ecumenical Frame. This is the last chapter, Arab and Jew in Palestine. So, yeah, a very fraught subject, but one that Magdisi writes not too big, so hopefully accessible and not too much in the weeds. It deals with the bigger, the larger framework, rather than getting too into the nitty gritties, which would take maybe 10 volumes. But yeah, that was the last book. Oh my God, 55 minutes. I apologize for anybody who made it this long. I tried to go as fast as I can. Feels like it just started 10 minutes ago, but here we are almost an hour in. So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed the Middle Eastern books. If you remember, an hour ago we were discussing some American history books. I'm still thinking about maybe 2026 will be the great year of reading American history and American politics books, modern American society books about. I've got books about Columbine shooting, books about just modern America. All of that I want to do it. It's also the 25th anniversary of 9/11 in 2026. I want to read books about 9/11. So I'm thinking now, although I don't want to promise, that 2026 will be a very America heavy reading year, because of the anniversary, the 250th anniversary coming up. But yeah, that's part two. Let's see, there might be a part two, a part three, a part four, a part five. We'll see how long this goes, and I'll hope next time to make this much shorter for the next one. But stay tuned for that, and thank you if you made it this far. Anything you want to ask, discuss, please, in the comments. The more the merrier. But I'll wrap this up right now, and I'll say goodbye, BookTube. Salute.